Hello and welcome to the week ahead. This week, first, I'm going to talk about what happened this week in the market, and then I want to zoom out and show you what I think a little bit longer term. Okay, so here I've got the NQ on the top and the ES on the bottom. I think it's important to look at them side by side, or one above the other in this case, but to look at them at the same time so you can see the similarities and differences. Obviously, big tech has been the one leading this. I don't want to call it a downtrend, but it's been leading the way down since we had this crazy rally last over the last couple of weeks, and then finally, after the big push out of this zone, started to come back in a bit. We did come right back in to the middle of this zone. I talked about this last Friday, and then we tried to push up out of it, and there's a clear resistance at the very first dip. The low of that dip has been a clear resistance since then, and not so clear on the ES. You'll notice that the very first dip after the big move up is probably there, and here we were able to get above it. And here we were not able to get above it on NQ. And then we were able to break that low on Friday morning, just yesterday, because it's now Saturday, November 15th. And on ES, we were not able to break the low. Now, either way, regardless of breaking the low or not breaking the low, look at the volume on this rally on Friday. It's definitely above average volume. It's the highest volume that we've had since back over here on these dips. So this is, that's significant to me that the bulls bought the dip. And so I don't know that I consider this a confirmed daily downtrend. I think that it's technically a daily downtrend. So you had a high, a low, a lower high, and now we have a lower low. So technically, it's a daily downtrend. But I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to show you why I don't actually care that it's a daily downtrend. So let's jump out to the weekly time frame. So here's the weekly trend, and as always, the main moving average that I follow is the EMA 12. So this blue line is the EMA 12. The other line is a slower lagging indicator, the EMA 26. And I don't really use the 26 very much, just to sort of keep me, aware that the one is above the other. So the trend is moving in one direction versus the other. And are they expanding away from each other? Or are they contracting towards each other? That's kind of the guide I use those for. But as you can see, both on NQ and on ES, we've been holding the daily EMA 12 this whole way up. And again, it doesn't really matter what moving average you use. You could use an SMA, EMA 12, you could use the 10, 20, like whatever you want to use, it doesn't really matter. All I'm trying to do is find spots where support has been held. And I can clearly see that, it's held here, held all through here, held all through here. Same thing, it held on this back test here, held there, held there, held there, and now it's holding again. And so it doesn't matter to me that we've had 2 weeks in a row where it tested, because that's happened before. It happened here, right? It's actually quite common to have a bit of chop and sideways before you move up again. But I do notice some things that I want to talk about. So let's go back out to the daily. And I'm actually going to I'm going to change this moving average to be based on the weekly time frame. I'm going to do it on both charts. This is not an indicator you can get from TradingView. It's one that I made for myself, but you can use the TradingView ones to do the same thing. And so here now I've changed those lines to be the weekly EMA 12, even though I'm on the daily time frame. And what I want to point out here, with the drawing tool here, I'm just going to draw a couple things. So what do you notice here? From the point that we got above the weekly EMA 12, look at all the space that we kept holding above before we tested. Look at all this open space, open air, where we're just like free flying above the weekly EMA 12. Then we get a little pocket, another test, and then another nice big open space, right? And then tight, tight, big space, little space. You can't help but notice that we had a nice gap, like plenty of open air, less, small, less. Like, it's not as free flying as before, which is why everybody's feeling a little bit nervous. And I've noticed that, this kind of looks like a little bit of a head and shoulders happening. Now, we didn't follow through, right? That's like a failed head and shoulders because we basically stopped there and bounced. And so is the trend over? I mean, so far the weekly EMA 12 is holding, right? But that's definitely my guide. We maybe even here, there it is on the weekly time frame. So you can sort of see we've got this one, a nice spike. Are we going to be able to get above that, or are we going to come back over on the weekly time frame? This is it. So you can't help but see that. And ES is stronger. Tech is the one that's having trouble right now, but you can't help but look at this and think about that. Now, the other thing, if you think about what's been happening in big tech, I'm going to show you a couple of charts right now. Just hang on. So we had quantum names with these crazy runs, and now they've basically failed and have come back in and retraced like 50% of their whole move. We had these rare earth metals have these crazy runs, and now they've come back in and retraced like 50% of their move. Gold has been running like wild, and now it may have potentially set a weekly lower high. We have to wait and see if this is gonna, if the potential daily high or low here from Friday is gonna hold or follow through. We have the disaster of Meta, right? Like, this thing has been terrible for a while now, and you really have to zoom out on this one to see what's the potential of what might happen. And based on this move, I can't help but think we might be in for, like, we're definitely trying for a monthly high or low right here, but based on the size of the retracement, I'm thinking, a lower high is the next thing that would happen. We still have a lot of big tech, like Apple's holding in strong here at the highs. Amazon still looking pretty good up here. Microsoft, the dead money, traveling sideways still. Where Google is actually holding up really strong still, looking great. So we sort of have a mixed bag in tech where, like, all the Mag 7 are sort of doing okay. NVIDIA basically has had a rejection from this fresh all-time high, and now it's sort of got a bit of a double bottom here. We don't really know what's going to happen. This could also be a sort of head and shoulders. And we're coming into the end of the year. We always know that right now it's November 15th. As we head towards December, there's sometimes a Santa rally, but it's not guaranteed. And my expectation has been that in the new year, when people start to rebalance their books and think about what's going to happen, they're going to look at this market, they're going to see the sort of state that we're in, and depends a lot, hangs on what happens over the next 6 weeks, but I would not be surprised for some kind of consolidation. So let's go back and do that zoom out game. Okay, so here's the run we've been doing on the weekly time frame since the tariff panicked bottom, and it's been holding. And I don't, you kind of have to look at this and think, well, what would be the thing that makes the most sense? What if we do break the weekly EMA 12? It might not happen right now. We might continue to go up. I do think that on the daily time frame, yes, we're in a technical daily downtrend, but we're still holding the weekly EMA 12, which we've been doing for a long time. So there's 6 weeks left in the year. Everybody might want a Santa rally. It's totally possible that we could continue to push up over the next 4 to 6 weeks and just make new highs again. It's absolutely possible. I'm not counting that out. However, what if we don't? Or what if we do and then we test the weekly EMA 12 and fail it in the new year? So I'm thinking it's one of those two situations that's going to happen. Either we break it right away and we actually go into weekly consolidation right away, or we make one more push for highs and then break for weekly consolidation. I honestly think we're that close to a top. I could be wrong about that too. It might just keep going up indefinitely. It could go up forever. I might be on my deathbed and we never went down. It's totally possible. You can't say anything is going to happen for sure in the market. However, what if it does go down? What do we need to think about? So I'm going to zoom out here. So let's zoom right out and look at the prior price action on the weekly time frame here. And so, one thing sticks out at me right away, which is, we've got some very key areas of like ranges of balance here. And, looking back many years, you can see, like, basically, let's even go to the monthly really quick. So on the monthly, it's kind of clear. And I turned off the adjusted for dividends. So let's put a line on that peak. Look where this tested on ES. Let's see, did it do the same thing on NQ? Yes, it tested that and bounced on the tariff bottom. And now we basically got a new peak up here and here. And so, again, let's go from the lows. Let's just draw some trend lines on here. Okay, so we're up here. What's the most likely thing that happens? Look at the size of this run that we had back here, right? That's a really nice run up. There were little dips along the way. I'm kind of ignoring those on these trend lines I'm drawing, but decent pull in, nice rally up with a couple little tests of this monthly EMA 12 along the way. We broke it there. We back tested this high, got back above it, and what's the most likely scenario from here? I actually think a monthly EMA 12 test would be fine. Like a nice flush down and dip and test of the monthly EMA 12 would be awesome. Look, we did it here. We did it here. It's totally healthy to keep riding this thing up and just have a short little dip and keep going. So that's something to think about for, I think, both ES and NQ. It just kind of makes sense, right? So from the lows here to the high there, higher low, higher high, higher low, fast higher high. Like, you could see this trend, just like this one and the one before it, the uptrends can just keep going for a really long time. But along the way, it helps to have these little dips that happen here and here, right? And so I think it's totally healthy to do that. And I look back, and we do have a recent high that we could be testing. This level here could get tested, or we could just come in for a monthly EMA 12 test. So with that in mind, let's jump back to the weekly. Okay, so looking at this, I always think to myself, where are the ranges of trading where we're going to find a lot of support if we do come back in, right? And And since we've been testing the weekly EMA 12, if we violate the weekly EMA 12, as you saw on the higher monthly time frame, the monthly EMA 12 is really what we want to be seeing if we get a test of again and a hold. And lo and behold, look, when you put on the monthly EMA 12, it totally aligns with the prior peak right now. That's going to keep going up over the coming weeks, right? At least, and it probably, if these start coming down, it might slow down a bit. But it does require 12 weeks, and so it's going to take a few weeks of down for the up ones to get erased and this thing to start curling over a little bit. And I think that's healthy. Okay, so let's say this is the prior balance, right? You can see there's a box here. I'll just draw it on there. Basically from here into here. And if you look at the volume range profile over here, you can see, let me just draw this. So if I put my cursor right there to there, right? You can see the spike happened within that range. So you know that there's a value area inside of this trading box that's right there. And so it would make sense to me that, this comes back in here somewhere. This catches up with us. We even get a spike, this line here, this trend line could come dip below that, test somewhere even down into this stuff, and then come back out of that and still be completely healthy, right? So if we break that weekly EMA 12 rider and we do come back in, there's support right below us. Like it would make perfect sense to do that and it to be healthy and then trend to continue. Again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just game planning, like based on what I'm seeing in the chart right now, which still honestly does not feel that bearish to me. You got to remember we just hit these crazy all-time highs that did feel very extended. I've been talking about that for weeks, and now we've come back in and we set a technical daily downtrend that I don't really find that trustworthy because it didn't even break the weekly EMA 12, which we've been riding since the tariff bottoms. So I still feel quite bullish on the market. I think that we got to be on guard over the next few weeks, looking for, is the low that was set this past Friday going to hold or not, and are we going to rally into next week? I could see us on the daily time frame. What's going to happen in here? So I'm on NQ now. I've got the weekly EMA 12 rider on the chart. What could happen over the next little while? So we had our nice huge rally, getting way extended above the weekly EMA 12. We came back down. We tested it. Awesome. We held it. We set a daily lower high. We tried to set a daily lower low, failed to do so. You could call that a double bottom technically. But most people say that's broken. But either way, the rally off this was great. The volume was high, if you remember from before. So what happens now? Do we like tighten up down in here, something like that, and then we break up or break down? Absolutely possible. We could continue to rally and break this level here and set fresh highs and just keep going, right? We could do the crawl of death where we're like kind of not sure and it's doing ugly candles and doing this thing and slowly make its way back to highs before then ultimately having a drop. Or we could completely fall over. Like, I don't actually know what's going to happen, but I'm very bullish based on the rally on Friday, the volume of that rally, and the fact that we're holding weekly EMA 12. I'm preparing myself. I'm literally spending my time during the trading days when I'm not trading, writing out a game plan of what do I want to do if we get monthly consolidation. Because if you go to the monthly time frame, the last piece I'm going to talk about here is we're halfway through November. This is the first red candle we've had on this whole move up since the tariff bottom. I'm watching this level right here, October low. I'm going to have that on my chart. I'm paying very close attention to it. If we break that, we break a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 monthly stair step. And that is monthly consolidation. And I'm ready for it. And I know I've got my zones where I'm interested to see how price reacts already from this area we just talked about. So that's what I'm thinking about for the larger time frame. If we manage to close this month and the low of this month is still above the low of prior month, this goes over here. This becomes November low. And the watch continues. And so these are the key levels I'm going to be watching because I'm going to have alerts on them. I want to know when these monthly stair steps break. That's like top of my game. I need to know what's happening. If we close and hold below the weekly EMA 12, that's another clue. So these are the things I'm watching in the coming weeks. It's some pretty choppy trading out there right now. There's definitely opportunities, but I personally love when we're in really solid uptrends and we're riding daily EMA 12 riders, for example. And right now, a lot of stocks are failing to do that. And so my watch list has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller over the last few weeks, which is another signal to me that monthly consolidation might be coming, because even though we don't have a confirmed true daily downtrend, in my opinion, the underlying stocks are showing signs that could be coming. So that's another reason why I'm sort of leaning towards maybe monthly consolidation is coming sooner than later. But either way, I hope this video helps. I hope it helps you to zoom out a little bit more and think about these larger time frames and look at game planning for what could happen, what might happen, and if it does happen, what are you going to do? Because it doesn't matter how much we talk about what might happen. It doesn't matter how much you think you understand. What matters is if your game plan does come to be, how do you benefit from it? So that's what I'm spending a lot of my time thinking about. That's what I'm planning for. I've actually gotten to a lot of cash in my account now, and I'm waiting for that pull in because I think a monthly high or low would be a great opportunity to put a lot of money to work. So anyway, that's it for me. I hope you have a great week this coming week, and happy trading. If you like my indicators on TradingView and you like the content I'm producing here on this channel, please remember to like and subscribe.